When we think of Eddie Brock in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man series, we think of Eric Foreman and trash. Not literal trash, but the line "You're trash, Brock" being one of the most memorable of the trilogy. We also think of Eddie Brock as a character not as accurate to the comics, and instead an opposite to this universe's Peter Parker, a spitting image of what happens when there's too much power and no responsibility. But did you know there was almost an Eddie Brock of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man franchise that would have been played by an actor other than Topher Grace, and one that would have appeared years before the release of Spider-Man 3. In this video, we'll be discussing Eddie Brock's deleted cameo from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. To begin, let's discuss the actor who would have played Eddie Brock that never was. RC Everbeck. According to IMDb, Everbeck is an actor, producer, and casting director who's had acting credits in 19 projects, with the most recent being a role in the TV show The 90s Girl from 2017. And probably the most interesting fact about Everbeck, at least for me, he's also a current defensive back for the Santa Monica College football team at the age of 49. That's impressive. And among Everbeck's 19 casting credits according to IMDb, his resume includes an uncredited role as Eddie Brock in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. This is still seen in the final film, and what doesn't mean much in context of the final film and the timeline of the Raimi trilogy. During the scene when Jameson and Robbie Robertson are discussing getting a clear picture of Spider-Man, Robertson's dialogue is along the lines of, "Eddie's been on it for weeks, we can't get a good picture of him." The Eddie he's referencing in this scene is Everbeck's Eddie Brock, who was cut from the final film. And while he may have been cut from the final film with his name drop still remaining in the film, 2 years ago Everbeck himself shared some details about his role on Twitter, even including our only look at what Eddie Brock would have looked like in this film. Before getting into the minuscule details of what the scene would have been, in a tweet from almost 2 years ago, Everbeck shared our only look at what Eddie Brock would have been in the film. Directly from his tweet, which includes this image, on the set of the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man with J.K. Simmons, I was the original Eddie Brock before Topher Grace, although I didn't get to turn into Venom. Break a leg to Tom Hardy, looking forward to your version. So from this image, there isn't much to tell about the scene other than it would have taken place at the Daily Bugle. The outfit is standard Eddie Brock as far as it goes, and it even looks like Everbeck was reviewing his lines when this photo was taken. And according to another one of Everbeck's tweets, his scene included him walking out of the door after confronting Peter Parker with Robbie Robertson, which would have been Parker's first day on the job. In response to another tweet regarding Eddie Brock being mentioned in the film, Everbeck replied, "Yeah, that is right where they cut. I was walking out the door after confronting Tobey Maguire with Bill Nunn, Peter Parker's first day on the job." Now to me that sounds a bit confusing and possibly something that could have been in the original cut of the film. As far as I'm concerned, the Eddie Brock mention comes before even Peter Parker brings pictures of Spider-Man to the Daily Bugle, so it's either the original cut of the film included this scene Everbeck described, or I believe there was an alternate cut of the scene where Peter first brings pictures to the Bugle. Either way, it is interesting to know there was a time years before Spider-Man 3 where Raimi and company almost included Eddie Brock in the film, especially since the character is one who Raimi is unfamiliar with. A common myth is that Raimi didn't like Venom, which is why he didn't want to use him in Spider-Man 3, but the reality is that the director was more familiar with the Lee Ditko era villains, and I even heard he began to like Venom after learning about the character. As far as how this would have changed the Raimi franchise as we know it, I don't think Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2 would be impacted as much, except for maybe a future cameo from Brock in Spider-Man 2, a part of the Daily Bugle staff. But if this alternate timeline still included Venom as the villain of Spider-Man 3, then the relationship between Eddie Brock and Peter would have much more depth and weight to it than Eddie Brock only appearing in Spider-Man 3. This would have been built up for 2 films prior. Personally, I can't vouch for how much better or worse Everbeck would have been than Topher Grace's Eddie Brock, but considering the actor is playing collegiate football at the age of 49, we would have seen an Eddie a bit more accurate to the comics compared to Grace's. And that's the story of how Eddie Brock almost appeared in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, with there still being evidence of the character's deleted role in the final film. Let me know what you guys thought of the video and how you would feel if this ended up being in the final cut of the film. If you enjoyed this video and you're new to the channel, be sure to check out other videos I have related to the Raimi trilogy, which include videos regarding a lot of things that never made it to the final film. The playlist will be added at the end of this video. And as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video and subscribe, follow my social medias, and I will see you guys again in my next video.